WrestleMania week is finally upon us, folks, thus making this the go-home edition of #AskGSM for April 3rd, 2019. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and enjoying the final few days, the calm before the storm, as I like to call it, before WrestleMania 35 on Sunday. Alexis and I are actually leaving for WrestleMania weekend tomorrow. We're leaving here in Connecticut for New York around Thursday afternoon, arriving there Thursday evening, maybe getting there in time for the Access Thursday night session, just because Aleister Black's going to be there, so we really want to see Aleister. Then we'll be there through Tuesday for WrestleMania 35, Monday Night Raw, G1 Supercard, WrestleMania Access, WrestleCon, and NXT TakeOver New York on Friday. So, of course, it's going to be a loaded next few days. It's going to be incredibly busy, but I can't wait for it. It's going to be a lot of fun. That being said, guys, if you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section of this very video. I'll include it in next week's edition. So, fittingly enough, with it being WrestleMania week, we have an absolutely loaded mailbag for you guys here today. Let's get started with the first question from YouTube Prince of Strong Style on the YouTube. His question was, I'm dying to get the new Andre the Giant DVD so I can watch the documentary. My question is, do you think that physical media is somewhat taken for granted because of the lack of new material and the fact that the internet and streaming services have dominated? Absolutely. I think I've said this here in the show before, but I still have my entire wrestling DVD collection, albeit in various places. Like, I have some here in my room, I have some in another house. Like, I have it in various places because I can't keep track of them all, because I still collect DVDs to this day, specifically if it's of a pay-per-view that I was either at or really enjoyed. Like, for example, I have the entire, not box set, but like the DVD, the 3-disc DVD set for WrestleMania 33. I was at that Mania. I fucking love that WrestleMania. I'll be at WrestleMania on Sunday, and when WrestleMania 35 gets released on DVD in a few short months, I'll have that on DVD as well. So, yeah, I love the physical media. I love the physical DVDs and having those, just being able to use them whenever. And, you know, having Netflix and the WWE Network and Hulu and just buying things digitally now. I mean, that's great and all, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, I like having the physical DVD to pop into a DVD player or my laptop or whatever, which I know is going by the wayside. I totally understand that, but I still enjoy it nonetheless. So I do think that the actual physical DVDs do get taken for granted. And it's been a while since we got like a great DVD released that people are like, oh, I need to get my hands on this. Like in terms of the WWE documentaries. I think the last one that comes to mind was the Kevin Owens documentary from the summer of 2017. I got that right as it was released, and I fucking loved it. That was a great documentary. And as of right now, as of the last time I checked, it's not available on the WWE Network. So the only way to watch it, unless it's through some streaming site, like a fucking, illegal site or something, would be to buy the actual DVD. So that's well worth checking out. I didn't even know they released the new Andre DVD. I honestly did not. I watched the HBO documentary on Andre about a year ago, which I thought was awesome. I did not know they were releasing another DVD on Andre, though, so I'm looking forward to that. I don't know how much different the documentary would be than what HBO did about a year ago. Probably not as good if they're not going to be covering certain things, but it'll likely be good nonetheless. But yeah, I do think the physical media is still taken for granted, because there's still a lot of gems out there that you will not get anywhere else. Not just the pay-per-view DVDs, because that I understand, aside from me and my own, fascination with having the DVDs of certain pay-per-views that I was at, is a bit pointless when you have the network. But the documentaries, like with the Kevin Owens documentary, I bought the Hardy Boys documentary / match compilation about a year ago. That was really good too. They talked about the Hardy, the Broken Hardys thing from TNA. They included footage of that. That was awesome. That was well worth purchasing. And other DVDs that I still have from years ago. The Triple H documentary, the Mick Foley documentary, the Ultimate Warrior documentary, the CM Punk documentary. One of the best wrestling DVDs that I own is that Punk documentary. So I know DVDs are not nearly as big as they were even a few years ago, or 10 years ago, whatever. But they are still worth purchasing if the DVD and documentary is strong enough. His second question, Speaking of which, what are some dream DVDs that you would love to see WWE do? For me, an anthology with all the TakeOver events, similar to the Big Four at pay-per-view anthologies from 2007, a William Regal set with a documentary, and an unreleased set for promotions such as WCW and the AWA. I would love all three of those things that you just mentioned, specifically the takeovers and the Regal doc. It's like you read my mind and wrote that in your question because you knew I would love it. So those, for sure. There's been a running joke for a long time now that Christian has never gotten a WWE DVD, and I feel like it's only a matter of time. First of all, he should be in the Hall of Fame. Second of all, giving Christian his own DVD, I think it'd be great. You know, telling his story, and I don't know if his story is all that interesting, like all that out of the ordinary, but Christian, one of the most underrated athletes they've ever had under contract with that company. His accomplishments, underrated. In-ring ability, underrated. Even his mic skills, underrated. Far from like the greatest of all time, but still a very, well-rounded performer that does not get enough credit as he deserves, as he probably should be. But yeah, I love the takeover idea. I love the Best of NXT DVD they put out a few years ago, and I still watch that at least once a year to this day. I think they released it back in 2016. It was that Best of NXT Volume 1 DVD, which, as the title probably would suggest that they would be releasing a Volume 2 at some point, a second volume. As of right now, I've heard nothing about that. I know they're still coming out with the Best of TakeOver in like 2018, which again is great, but like when every TakeOver is awesome, then how can you really like cherry pick certain matches, Especially when they're already available on the network. But that first NXT DVD had some matches on there that I had not either seen in a long time or had never seen. Because some of those matches were like house show matches. The same can be said for that, the NXT Sensation DVD. I forgot what it was exactly called, but they came out with it about a year and a half ago. And it had the full house show match between Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. When Samoa Joe beat Balor for the NXT Championship in Lowell, Massachusetts, back in April of 2016, I was at that fucking show. So to watch that match back gave me literal goosebumps. That's what I want to see more of. So pretty much in addition to what you already said, the Regal doc, the TakeOver doc, the WCW and AWA unreleased set of promotion shit, I think would be great too. Kind of what they have on the network now with the hidden gems. That'd be cool if they released that in DVD form. I would say the 24 specials, like the Hardy Boys Woken doc, I would love to have that on DVD. As far as I know, though, I think they did release that on DVD. I saw it at FYE a couple weeks ago. I think just last Monday, actually. It was in WWE 24 compilation of some of the best. It was that one, the Hardy Boys one. I think it was Raw 25, WrestleMania 33 maybe? WrestleMania Orlando, and another one. That is well worth getting because I was at the WrestleMania Orlando one. The Hardy Boys Woken one was easily my favorite 24 special they've ever done. And I was at Raw 25, so that might not be the exact lineup, but I thought that was pretty cool too. So yeah, more of what they already have on the network, just in DVD form. Again, it might sound pointless, but I think it'd be cool. But definitely the takeovers, because I don't have nearly enough NXT DVDs as I probably should. Just because NXT is amazing. So, yeah, for sure. I agree with all of your picks and some of those as well that I already mentioned. Elaine to the Y from YouTube, their first question was, what's up with Raw's endings these past few weeks? This week they ended on a Baron Corbin match, a replay of the Becky Charlotte Ronda brawl, and a wide shot of the arena. The wide shot gets me if only because I don't know if WWE has ever ended on a wide shot before, so just something about them ending on one is odd. Yeah, the Raw endings in the last couple of weeks have been very strange. I was thinking, because people were speculating on Twitter on Monday night during Raw, like, okay, they put the Charlotte, Ronda, Becky thing on, early so they can end on something bigger. Like a big swerve with Baron Corbin getting replaced by someone else to face Kurt Angle at WrestleMania. That didn't happen. Instead, we got Baron Corbin versus Rey Mysterio, where Rey Mysterio may have actually been hurt. And I hope that's not the case. I hope it's like a storyline injury. It probably is. But, fingers crossed anyway. But yeah, I thought that was weird just because the ending angle on Raw, right before WrestleMania, should be able to sell you on WrestleMania, on purchasing the pay-per-view and getting you excited for the event. That match did none of those things. The match was all right, but it did nothing to make me look forward to Angle versus Corbin, or WrestleMania itself, which I guess can be said about the entire WrestleMania build on the whole, because this road to WrestleMania has been all over the fucking place, with shit not going as planned and it just being a complete and total mess. So I don't know what purpose that was supposed to serve, aside from me almost tuning out of the show early. So I thought that was a complete waste. But really, not just the past few weeks that Raw has ended on like weird notes, but like I was thinking this during Raw this week, but like the past few go-home shows for WrestleMania have been fucking terrible. Let's go back a few years now. 4 years ago, 2015, we ended on the tug of war between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. That was terrible. But at least that was the main event of WrestleMania that year, so it made sense to end on that note, even though it was underwhelming. Fast forward a year later, Roman Reigns and Triple H brawling, which we had already seen earlier on in that show, but they did it again to close that show, and surprise, surprise, it did nothing to sell me on Roman Reigns versus Triple H at WrestleMania. The angle sucked. Therefore, and I mean, not just because of that, but the match sucked anyway. But again, at least that match main evented WrestleMania. Last year and the year before, I honestly could not even tell you what they closed the show with on Raw right before WrestleMania. I really, honestly don't know. I don't remember. 33, maybe it was Brock and Goldberg. It might have been Brock and Goldberg, which is fine. I think it was a short and sweet angle from what I remember. But it didn't like make me any more excited for their match. At least I think it was Brock and Goldberg. And then last year, what would it have been last year? Roman and probably something with Roman and Brock, which I have no recollection of whatsoever. It might have been a brawl of some sort that they tried to do with Roman and Brock. I don't even really remember. But yeah, these pre-WrestleMania editions of Raw have notoriously been bad now for a few years, and this was no exception. Corbin and Rey Mysterio was hardly a worthy main event for the final Raw before WrestleMania. And if they ended the match and then closed out the show at this like big angle, that would be one thing. But they didn't. Corbin won clean and then got attacked by Kurt Angle afterward on the stage. That was it. That was all that needed to happen. That was all that did happen. What we needed to happen was something way more exciting to get me more pumped up for WrestleMania. So I thought that was a massive disappointment. And the wide shot thing, like you said, was just weird. Elena's second question. One thing I'll say about SmackDown's storylines is that the face/heel dynamics are the most well-defined they've been in forever. I think we all made the comment about why is Daniel Bryan a bad guy for caring about the environment and despising gross excess when his heel turn first started, but thanks to the Kofi feud, he's recontextualized, I think it might be the right word, or pronunciation of that word. That's a great word, though. As an insecure hypocrite and thus a clear-cut heel against Kofi, who has a great babyface arc, but more on that later. Between this and the surprisingly effective Miz-Shane double turn, are these the best pieces of character development WWE has written in forever? Yeah, at least the first time in a long-ass time. The character arcs with Miz, Shane, Bryan, and Kofi specifically have been fantastic. The Bryan-Kofi match, you guys know, I said this here on the show many months ago. I'm not going to hide from it. I'm not going to shy away from it, from the fact that I said it. I said I was not sold on Bryan versus Kofi at WrestleMania. I did not feel that was a WrestleMania-worthy match. I felt it didn't make sense for WrestleMania. It wasn't big box office, as Vince said a few months ago. It was blah. But they sold me on this feud with Kofi's chase for the championship and having me buy into him as the biggest underdog in like the history of WWE. People are behind him. He's super over. Bryan playing his role remarkably well, with the roles reversed from a few years ago when Bryan was the one fighting from underneath against the Authority. Now it's Kofi Kingston. Again, they fell into this because this was never the plan, which is probably even more hilarious because this was never the plan. And props to them for running for what was hot, for what made sense going into WrestleMania. Because any other match coming off the events of Kofi's Gauntlet performance and his performance at the Elimination Chamber would have been stupid. To put Owens in that spot at WrestleMania, Mustafa Ali, whatever, John Cena, it would not have made any sense. So props to WWE for doing what makes sense. But again, let's not forget the fact that this was not the plan a few months ago. The only reason they're doing this is because Kofi got hot out of nowhere. And that had they planned this from the get-go, that would have been one thing. Like, had they gradually built to this point, I would give WWE more props. But it really was all a matter of, like, fate and circumstance with Kofi Kingston, with Mustafa Ali getting hurt, and then him just kind of falling into that great gauntlet performance, which WWE booked him to have, obviously, but Kofi has been playing his role amazingly well. Probably better than anyone else who could have been in that position. Which makes this story all the more better, that it feels organic. And now the ball's in WWE's court to do the right thing at WrestleMania by putting the championship on him. The Miz and Shane stuff I've been loving from the get-go. The Crown Jewel shit a few months ago I thought was atrocious, but at least it led somewhere. Because we came out of Crown Jewel, Shane was still a babyface. We're like, what the fuck was the point of that? And they kind of planted the seeds for a Shane heel turn, which I honestly did not think, and I'm sure I'm not alone in saying this, I did not actually think they would do, but they did at Fastlane. And I thought it was great. The turn was awesome. The crowd's been buying into Miz as a face. And for Miz's, to Miz's credit, it's not just the fact that crowds are behind him and he's not, kind of holding up his end of the bargain with promos and matches and stuff. Miz has been fucking killing it on the mic since turning face a few months ago, about a month ago. He's been doing a really great job of going from like a fun-loving, goofy, chicken shit heel to becoming an intense, determined, and passionate babyface. I fucking love it. The promo he cut this week was great. The promo he cut last week was great. The promo he cut coming off the turn from Shane a few weeks ago was great too. They've been doing a really good job of getting me excited for The Miz versus fucking Shane McMahon at WrestleMania. A match I had zero interest in a few months ago, but they had since sold me on it because of the character development with both guys. Even Shane, he's a very refreshing heel right now because the whole babyface thing with Shane and him, trying to overcome the odds going into WrestleMania, we've seen it 3 times before at 32, 33, and 34. It was time for something new. So to turn him heel and not have him be all over the show on SmackDown, they're not overexposing these guys, which is another great aspect of that feud. I think it's been awesome, so I've been really enjoying that feud, and Bryan and Kofi, same thing. So as a result of their great character development, those are the 2 matches I'm looking forward to more than any other at the WrestleMania card, and that includes Lesnar and Rollins, even the 3-way women's main event with Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky. And AJ and Orton I would throw in there too. I'm really looking forward to that match based off the promos alone, and I'm sure they're going to have great chemistry in the ring. But, this character development with all 4 of these guys specifically, Miz, Shane, Bryan, and Kofi, has been off the charts. And again, the Miz and Shane one was planned. That was planned. I don't know if the plan at one point was to turn Miz back to a heel and have Shane be the babyface and if something changed along the way. That I don't know. The Bryan and Kofi thing just fell right on their lap. Miz and Shane was totally planned. So props to WWE for doing a great job of crafting Miz into a believable babyface, which he wasn't, 6 or 7 years ago when he first turned babyface. But he is a great face now, and I think it's great. Their next question: I know SmackDown has not been perfect, but I'll forever appreciate how they've been portraying Kofi Kingston as a well-respected veteran over the past month. The best thing to come out of Kofi Mania, at least for me, and why I'm willing to forgive the flimsy Vince doesn't want Kofi Kingston to have a WrestleMania title opportunity because reasons stuff, is the focus on the bonds Kofi has made. He's got a bond of friendship in the New Day, and even a bond of respect in the rivals like the Usos, bonds that go beyond support from the babyface locker room. It just feels like a system of support from the normal locker room. It's a concept that's been sadly buried by the Hogan, Austin, Rock, Cena mold of top guys, being independent badasses who can shrug off everything and do it alone, which seems like a money equation because, hey, it's the mold of the biggest stars in the business. But it makes most people seem flat and tired, and also, why are we getting mass heel beatdowns where nobody comes out to save the babyface and we all joke about it online? Why doesn't WWE emphasize babyfaces having friends in support systems more often? That is an awesome question, and I really don't know. That's an awesome, awesome question. It would make sense to kind of highlight those aspects of certain characters more, to show the fact that, yeah, they do have allies in the locker room. And not just certain babyfaces, but like the entire locker room is behind Kofi Kingston becoming WWE Champion at WrestleMania. We didn't see that with Daniel Bryan even 5 years ago. For as great as Daniel Bryan's feud was with the Authority, they showed that he could do it alone, which, yeah, it makes him out to look like a strong character, that he's, this strong, tough top guy, that he could do it all by himself. But there's nothing wrong with showing these people having friends in the locker room that are supporting them in their chase for the championship or their chase to become the guy on Raw or SmackDown or in the WWE on the whole. Kofi, they've perfected that with the New Day, the babyface locker room, and just really everybody in the locker room, and not certain characters. I think it's been great. It's really, really cool. With Kofi, it's different because, like you said, he's been like a veteran over the past 10, 11 years. So, had they done the same thing with Mustafa Ali, it would have been a bit different just because, he just debuted a few years ago. His story would have been different just because, he's a cruiserweight, and they would have kind of, Daniel Bryan would have said, oh, you're too small, blah, 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 you're a loser, which he's also small. So, it's the same thing like with Kofi. Like with Bryan saying to Kofi, oh, you're a B-plus player. That's the same criticism that was made of Bryan 5 years ago. So with Ali, it would have been no different. Like, oh, you're small. The same criticism that would have been made of Bryan, a few years ago when he first became a top guy in WWE. And now people look past that. But, I really would love to see WWE, not with every feud, but kind of pull that card more often with having friends and support systems. Because that's how life works. In life, you can do things by yourself. You can. It's not always easy. It is possible to get things done by yourself. But it's made a lot easier when you have a support system, when you have friends, when you have people that back you up and will support you no matter what happens. That's what we're seeing with Kofi Kingston right now. So there's nothing wrong with, like you said, Austin, Hogan, Rock, Cena, doing everything on their own regardless of the odds and how tough it is and all this other shit. But like you said, when the heels are attacking the baby faces and nobody in the locker room comes out to save them, who does that look worse on? The baby face in the ring, showing that they have no friends, or the people in the back, who are basically assholes for not giving a shit about this other baby face? So with Kofi, that's not been a problem at all, and it's refreshing because it's different from what we normally see, not just in WWE, but in wrestling on the whole. So hopefully, with the whole Kofi Mania, phenomenon going on at the moment, WWE and other wrestling promotions will hopefully start to see that doing stuff like this and having support systems and actually having allies and friends, which is apparently unheard of in the wrestling industry. Maybe because everyone turns on each other eventually. Maybe that's what we've been led to believe as fans. I don't know if that's a great life lesson to tell, but everyone's going to turn on you eventually, so why bother making friends? I feel like that's been wrestling promoters' mindsets now. That's been their mindset for years, for decades. But it doesn't always have to be that way. The New Day is the one group that is stuck together through thick and thin, has never had any issues over the past 5 years, which is a very realistic thing to have in real life. Having friends that are lifelong friends that are there to support you and help you get from point A to point B in your journey of life. We should see that more often in wrestling. Again, not with every story. I'm not saying they should do that with everybody. But with The Shield, wouldn't it make sense? I mean, again, I don't want to see Roman and Dean come out to help Rollins win the WWE Champion or the Universal Championship on Sunday, but they've broken up 5 fucking times. They're not good friends at all. They're kind of we'll reunite every once in a while. We were high school buddies, but we kind of fell out of it, blah, blah, blah. And they were great when they were together. But that bond that they have is long gone because they've broken up 4 or 5 fucking times. So why would I believe that they'll be this united front against, common enemies? At least we have that with the New Day. Their fourth question. All right, so gushing aside, SmackDown Live's big problem is that there's a clear divide between the stuff the writers actually care about and the stuff that it doesn't. Case in point, the 18-person mixed tag team battle royal extravaganza that just highlights how bloated the roster is. Honestly, how do people still want more call-ups and signees? WrestleMania is about to be 7 hours, and the Hardys still couldn't make it to a tag team fatal 4-way match. They had to settle for filler spots in the Andre Battle Royal. Yeah, how bullshit is that? The fucking Hardy Boys. How do you have a fatal 4-way tag team title match, and the Hardy Boys are not a part of it? And I don't want to hear this shit, oh, they should save the Usos and the Hardys for another time, blah, blah, blah. Dude, it's WrestleMania. The Usos are very likely on their way out of the company. If there was any time to do the Hardys and the Usos, it would be at fucking WrestleMania. That's the whole point of WrestleMania. You don't need to get Rusev and Nakamura in the tag team title match. They've been a tag team for a cup of coffee. The Bar, we've seen them in this position This is their third straight tag team title opportunity at WrestleMania. I like the bar, but they can settle for the fucking Battle Royal. And then there's Black and Ricochet, who I love. They're great, but they were just going for the Raw tag team titles on Raw this week. If there was any match to do at WrestleMania involving Black and Ricochet, it would be the Revival versus Black and Ricochet for the Raw tag team titles. Not putting them in the SmackDown tag team title picture for no reason. That just makes no sense. So the Usos and the Hardys is the match to do. The fans want to see it. WWE won't book it. We're not getting it. And like you said, there is a very clear divide on SmackDown between what matters right now and what doesn't. And that sucks. Because the women's division is on ice right now. Because they have Charlotte and Becky, who are basically Raw superstars at this point. And then everyone else, they don't get two shits about. Sonya, Mandy, Asuka even. They've been directionless for a while. Naomi's complaining online about not having anything to do, and rightfully so. She's had nothing to do now since her feud with Mandy Rose ended a few months ago. So that's another one. The tag team division, again, they clearly do not give a fucking shit about their tag team division. If they're throwing them together in a random fatal four-way match at the last minute, and it's not even a match many are looking forward to, because the Hardys are not involved. And like you said, how do people want more call-ups and signees? Selfishly speaking, I'll be at Raw on Monday, the post-WrestleMania Raw. I would love to see at least one new superstar called up. But if they're not going to let go of some people or put some people back in NXT or do more with certain people, then no, they should not call up more people, and they should not sign anyone else until they make the most of who they have. Because they sign people, they get all excited for 10 minutes, and they forget all about them when they sign someone else. NXT even does that from time to time as well. NXT is also guilty of that from time to time. They kind of move past the recent signees and look forward to the shiny new toy until they sign someone else, and that person becomes old news too. NXT does a better job of almost giving everyone in the promotion something to do. Not everybody, but for the most part, they do a good job of that. The main roster, it's a fucking mess. That 18-person mixed tag team match was a ginormous clusterfuck. EC3 was in there. The Hardy Boys were in there. Asuka was in there. It was so sad because these people are beyond directionless right now. And, even if we wanted to put them in a major match at WrestleMania is about to be 7 hours long, like you said. Probably even longer than that. It's probably going past 12 a.m. It's probably going to be six for the main card, 2 for the pre-show. It's probably going to be closer to 8 hours, to be honest with you. That's purely my speculation. You can't put everyone in the singles match at WrestleMania. But they can at least be doing something with these people in the meantime. Like the Hardys. Why aren't they feuding with The Bar? Or why aren't they feuding with this other team if they're not going for the tag team titles right now? Again, I know there's not enough television time to go around sometimes, but you have all these platforms between Raw and SmackDown and the internet and WWE.com and YouTube and Twitter. There are ways to start storylines and continue them through vignettes and video packages and videos and tweets and whatnot without actually featuring them in a match on the show. But yeah, the roster is so bloated right now. That might be the best word to use to describe it at the moment. So yeah, they probably should not be calling up any more people until they kind of get their shit straight with who they have at the moment, which they won't do, and they're gonna call up people anyway just to do nothing with them after a month. FD from Facebook has got a few questions here. First one being, in your opinion, which one do you feel like will make the biggest impact from the WWE Universe once the dust is settled for WrestleMania week, assuming they all win their respective titles? Kofi Mania, Becky Mania, or Rollins Mania? Definitely Kofi Mania. Becky and Rollins, they've been champions before. So has Kofi, but Kofi's never been a world champion. That would be an amazing moment, especially after the story they've told with him. And I'm not convinced that they're all going to win at WrestleMania. Probably 2. I don't think it's likely that all 3 of them win at WrestleMania, which sucks because I want all 3 of them to win. I think Kofi's winning. I feel like he has to win. It would be insane for them not to have him win. Only to have him, win it on SmackDown or the next pay-per-view? You gotta strike while the iron is hot. And it's WrestleMania. It would be the perfect WrestleMania moment. But anyway, of the 3, Kofi Mania for sure. Rollins, winning the Universal title is going to be a cool moment, if only to get that fucking title off of Brock Lesnar. But, it's nothing that we haven't seen. We saw him close WrestleMania 4 years ago as the WWE champion after cashing in Money in the Bank. That was a big moment. This will be a good moment too, not nearly as great as that. And Becky finally overcoming the odds to become champion, that'll be great, but, I feel like Kofi Mania, it's such a hot story right now, and Kofi's so fucking over that it's going to be an amazing moment and probably be the best moment if they, actually go through with it on WrestleMania on Sunday. His next question, what are your top 3 matches that you're most excited for about this WrestleMania week outside of WWE, including NXT? So the only event that I'm really watching / going to / am aware of for WrestleMania weekend that's not WWE related is G1 Supercard. If we're not counting WWE and if we're not counting NXT for matches and events I'm looking forward to, then it would have to be G1 Supercard because I'll be at that show in MSG. It's going to be fucking awesome. The 3 matches that I'm most excited for on that card would have to be the 3-way ladder match main event, assuming it is the main event, between Jay Lethal, Matt Taven, and Marty Scurll for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Jay White and Okada, just because I've never seen Okada in person before, so that'd be a great experience for sure. And then Will Ospreay and Jeff Cobb for the Television Championship and the Never Openweight Championship, I think it's called. A title for title match. So that's going to be fucking awesome. I'm a big Cobb fan. Ospreay is awesome as well. That should be a really, really good match. And his third question rather. What are your thoughts on John Oliver's hot comments in the WWE overall? Also, how do you feel about his comments specifically regarding how they treat their stars with their contracts and how they strategize against future challengers for WWE, including AEW? Did they really talk about that, though? I know he talked about how, Vince bought out all the other territories and now it's one giant monopoly. They didn't really talk about how they squash out other competitors. It was really more so in how they treat their employees. So I won't really discuss the latter half of your question there. But the first part, I thought it was awesome. The John Oliver thing, if you have not seen it, it was on last week tonight on Sunday night, HBO, I believe, with John Oliver, who, I don't watch the show, but I am familiar with John Oliver. I've seen clips with him before. He's great. He did this awesome expose of WWE. And he didn't bash wrestling. Oh, it's for sweaty fucking dumb old people, blah, blah, blah. All these stupid fans. He's not trashing wrestling. He wasn't even trashing the fans. If anything, he praised the fans. If anything, he was pooping on WWE and the fact that they don't give these people health insurance, retirement plans, all this other shit. And yeah, they had the wellness policy, but they're still classified as independent contractors. How do you get away with that when they're not allowed to work anywhere else? They sign exclusive contracts. So how does that make them independent contractors? It's a fucking sham. It's a fucking sham. So I was already aware of the issue because I've heard Monster talk about it before and many other people over the years. But it was great to see it discussed in such a public forum. And last time I checked yesterday, it had 4.5 million views. So it's getting a lot of traction online, and not just with people who watch wrestling. People have sent me that clip all week. My uncle, one of my friend's girlfriends sent it to me because they all know I like WWE. People sent it to me on Facebook and on Twitter telling me to watch it. I'm like, yeah, I already watched it. It was awesome. You need to watch it. Even for non-wrestling fans, it's really an astounding it's really an astounding video to watch. To realize how with wrestling, specifically WWE, how their contracts work. It's not everything that you seem. Everything everyone that I've talked to about this is completely mind blown about how with this type of stuff that they actually don't have health insurance, because you would never know because it's not like they say that on the show. But a lot of people, I knew that, but other people who aren't wrestling fans and don't pay close attention to wrestling wouldn't know that these people don't have health insurance. And the general assumption is, they're big stars, maybe they're making enough money to kind of offset the fact they don't get health insurance. No, not really. Yeah, maybe a John Cena or a Roman Reigns or even a Seth Rollins or an AJ Styles. But what about Kurt Hawkins? What about Liv Morgan? What about EC3? What about all these other guys that are very likely making minimal money? No more than your average citizen of the United States working at any ordinary job. They don't have health insurance and they're fucked. So it's not everyone making big money, and a lot of that money goes to travel too, because a lot of these people have to pay for their own travel. So yeah, I thought it was really not really a shocking video, at least for me anyway, because I was already aware of a lot of these issues. But it was an awesome, like I said, expose of sorts of WWE, well worth checking out if you have not already watched it. The full segment is on YouTube. It's about 23 minutes long. It's a bit of a watch. It's a bit of a lengthy watch, but well worth the time. It's very entertaining too. He makes a lot of jokes. He's a very entertaining guy. But the bottom line is that WWE and their issues with independent contractors and the fact that they label their superstars as such when they're not is a big fucking problem that should be addressed ASAP, specifically by the government. How WWE continues to get away with shit like that is beyond me. That just blows my mind. Next question from, I don't even know how you would pronounce this, but it's UIWA or WUAGWU91. So Ungawa 91 or however you pronounce it. I apologize. His question was, why do you think WWE paired Low-Ki with Laycool? Because they didn't care about Low-Ki. They wanted him to fail. A lot like Daniel Bryan. Although with Low-Ki it was worse. At least with Bryan, Bryan worked amazingly well with The Miz as his pro in NXT. But they did that on purpose because the company did not look at Daniel Bryan as the seasoned vet that he was. They saw him as an indie-rific, good wrestler. Whereas with The Miz, he's a glorified superstar. He's a future world champion at that point, back in 2010. All this other shit. So, with Low-Ki, they didn't really... It was kind of the same thing with Daniel Bryan. They didn't really see too much in him until, he made the most of what they gave him. And him and Miz had that awesome dynamic, a feud that still carries on to this day, even over 9 years later. With Low-Ki, it was a bit worse off just because he had Laycool as his pros, who are fucking obnoxious as shit. And it's not like, he had a female coach. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It wasn't the fact that he had a female pro. It was the fact that it was a Laycool, who, at the time they were like women's champions. But Laycool being associated with, or Low-Ki rather, being associated with Laycool was not doing him any favors. It was not allowing people to take him seriously. It was back when the Divas meant nothing. And the guy was a great wrestler, but he lost constantly, the same way Daniel Bryan did on Season 1. So it was kind of a mirror image with what WWE did with Bryan in the first season of NXT. Low-Ki suffered the same fate, but unlike Bryan, he just couldn't get over, and he couldn't make the most of what he had with Laycool. He was with him for a time on SmackDown after he won NXT Season 2, and which shocked me. I think it was because it was due to the fan vote that he won the season. Because otherwise, how would Low-Ki have won NXT, considering he lost every fucking match he ever had in NXT, for the most part. But then he went on to win the whole thing. It made no sense, so it must have been the fan vote, like legitimate fan voting that earned Low-Ki the spot on the roster. But yeah, it sucked because he won the contract, and it was like immediately, no joke, buried by the rest of the NXT roster. He won the contract and got laid out by every other member of the NXT roster. And it amounted to nothing. People were thinking, is it a second Nexus? It led to nothing. They all left, and that was it. Low-Ki was left looking like a fucking loser. And then he went on SmackDown, lost a bunch of matches, got a shot at the IC Championship at Survivor Series, lost that, left the company within a month. So, they paired Low-Ki up with Laycool because they wanted to show people, like, listen, we know that you love this guy because of his indie-rific background, but the guy's nothing here. The guy's a loser. And when you lead people to believe that way, then, like with Daniel Bryan, they tried the same thing, but with Bryan it worked because the dynamic he had with Miz was awesome, no pun intended. The dynamic Low-Ki had with Laycool wasn't nearly as strong. And that wasn't the only thing that did him in, but like I said, it did him no favors. At Jeremy8911, he's got a couple questions here today. First one being, do you think Hawkins and Ryder are winning the Raw Tag Team titles at WrestleMania? Honestly, it's not too far-fetched. I know there was a report earlier this week that said that we're getting two tag team title matches at WrestleMania, not counting the women's one. But one with the SmackDown guys, that would be a multi-man match, which ended up being added. It makes no sense, but whatever. And then the Raw one would be a Raw Tag Team title match that wasn't with Black and Ricochet. It would be another team. And as of right now, as of this recording, they're not officially advertising Hawkins and Ryder going for the Raw Tag Team titles. They did set the match up on YouTube after Raw, in a WWE.com exclusive, but there's been no official word on whether the match is actually happening. I could see it being one of those things where the Revival comes out. They're like, oh, we want to defend our tag team titles at WrestleMania. And then they call out Hawkins and Ryder, who are from the New York, New Jersey area. They win the titles in like a few minutes. And it's a cool moment for Hawkins and Ryder. And Hawkins finally wins his first match in like 2.5 years. That would be a great moment. If not that, I've seen people actually bet on Kurt Hawkins winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which would also be pretty cool. That's not happening either. But the tag team title thing I think could work. It would make sense. The only issue that I have with it is that has not been built up at all. And yeah, they reunited a few months ago, and they've been saying that, oh, we're losers, and the only way we can win is together, and we have our sights set on becoming tag team champions again. I understand that, but they've been barely on TV in recent months. And they started out great with that angle, and they forgot all about it, and they've been hardly on Raw since. So again, it would feel a little random, but it would be a cool moment nonetheless, specifically because I'm a fan of those guys. Hawkins can finally win. It's not like the Revival are really doing anything right now as the Raw Tag Team Champion, so why the hell not? And if it was more of an angle than an actual match, then I'm cool with it, because the last thing we need at WrestleMania is another tag team title match, like another match, because we already have like 15, 16, 17 matches on tap. We don't need another full-length 10, 15-minute match, which I doubt that would be anyway. But if it was like a quick match with Hawkins and Ryder winning, I see no issue with that whatsoever. Jeremy's second question, if Rey Mysterio can't go on Sunday, who would you have Samoa Joe defend the United States Championship against? Good question. I literally just read a few seconds ago that Mysterio's ankle injury from Raw is legitimate. So it's unknown what his status is for WrestleMania. That would really suck if he had to miss the show and he got hurt fucking 6 days before the pay-per-view. That would really suck. So hopefully that's not the case. If it is, there's a few different options. I thought Joe versus Ali on SmackDown last night. I thought it would set up Ali potentially entering that matchup, because Joe and Ali have unfinished business from a few months ago. They work well together. Ali is still, as of now, in the fucking Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. So I'm thinking, okay, if they think in their mind that Rey Mysterio can't go, at least we can go with Ali in that spot because he pinned Joe on SmackDown. Well, that didn't happen. Joe won with ease, like within minutes, and Ali's still going to be in the fucking Battle Royal unless plans change at the last minute. So Ali likely isn't really an option because it would make no sense. Like, Joe beats him in 3 minutes on SmackDown, and he gets a title shot anyway. Other than that, I thought he would have been a good choice, but they kind of ruined that with what they did on Tuesday. Andrade, I know it's 2 heels, but Andrade is also in the fucking Battle Royal. Kind of a waste of him. But Andrade versus Samoa Joe would be cool. Kevin Owens, as of now, is not a part of any WrestleMania match. I assume he gets added to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, but it would be better if he got his own match, unless he wins that. But it would be cooler if Rey Mysterio can't go and he replaces him. Like, I'm not hoping Rey Mysterio, isn't clear to compete. I hope he is. But assuming that he can't go, Owens would be a good fit for that spot. Owens and Joe, it's a fresh match. We've never seen it on the main roster before. Face and heel makes a lot of sense. And then maybe Owens can win the belt back and become a 4-time United States champion. But yeah, Owens is a good choice. And then there's Sami Zayn, who is kind of a dark horse right now. I assume, as they wrote in an article for Daily DDT this past week, I assume Zayn is being brought back on like the post-WrestleMania Raw or SmackDown, because he's been clear to compete for a few weeks now. And it just wouldn't make sense to bring him back before WrestleMania if they have nothing for him. Ali and Kevin Owens. But with Sami Zayn, Zayn and Joe also have history from a few years ago. The match would be good. Zayn, I assume he's being brought back as a heel, but he could come back as a face, which I feel like might be the best role for him anyway. But yeah, that'd be a cool surprise. Maybe Zayn wins the championship and he gets added to the SmackDown roster. Who knows? There's been a lot of people switching from Raw to SmackDown lately. I would not be surprised if Zayn got added to that list as well. But yeah, I think it's going to be Zayn and or I don't think it could. I don't think it will be, but Zayn could be a potential possibility for sure. Zayn, Kevin Owens, Andrade, and Ali are all real good, candidates to take on Samoa Joe for the U.S. Championship on Sunday if Rey Mysterio can't go. His next question, do you think WWE should have held off on Kevin Owens' return until after WrestleMania? 100% I do. Why the fuck would you bring him back to be a filler feud for Daniel Bryan if you knew he wouldn't win the belt and you knew you had nothing else for him in mind for WrestleMania? It seems like such a waste. I was actually banking on him and Sammy coming back right after WrestleMania. So why rush it if you have nothing for him to do? I thought that was such a waste. And he never even ended up getting that one-on-one match with Daniel Bryan. It became a three-way with Ali, and Owens apparently doesn't care about that. If it was any other character, they'd be like, oh, I was promised a one-on-one match. Where's my one-on-one match? Well, we're not getting that, and we never will get it because someone's never said anything else about it. It's like the same thing with his guaranteed rematch for the Universal Championship that he never asked for after he lost it to Goldberg 2 years ago. Apparently, Owens doesn't really care much about wins and losses and getting championship matches. But, yeah, they absolutely should have held off on bringing Owens back until after WrestleMania. Because considering that he's not doing anything, not even anything of note, but like anything at all at WrestleMania as of now, is fucking ridiculous. So, yeah, they really should have held off until after Mania. To bring anyone back before Mania, between the Rumble and Mania, unless you have something notable in mind for them at the event, is such a stupid move. It really is dumb, and Owens is a prime example of that. Jeremy's fourth question: do you think WWE should split up Sanity and either pair Killian Dane with Nikki Cross or send Dane and Alexander Wolf to NXT UK? It doesn't even really matter to keep Sanity together at this point. Eric Young would be toast. I mean, Eric Young, the only real... I was never really a big Eric Young fan in TNA, but I did like the Sanity group. I liked Sanity in NXT, not a lot, but I thought the group was good. It was a great use of Eric Young, because I don't think he's going to go anywhere on his own. So if they split up Sanity, that's the end of Eric Young. You can already argue it already has been the end of Eric Young, because they have not been on WWE TV prior to the past 2 weeks in a year. But, with him, I don't really see him going anywhere if Sanity was to split up. At least with Sanity, there's still a chance they could be revived at some point. I don't see that happening. It's very clear that WWE does not give two shits about Sanity. But at least that's Eric Young's ticket to keeping, not only just staying employed, but being on TV with the rest of Sanity. If he's on his own, you will never see him on SmackDown. I guarantee that. He's just not that good. Dane and Alexander Wolf is not that good either on his own. But at least if they went to NXT UK, there's a better chance of WWE doing something with them than if they stayed together as Sanity. And if Nikki Cross won't be a part of Sanity, which she has not been seen on TV in forever either, then I don't know where they're going with this. So, yeah. Dane and Nikki Cross would be interesting. I don't know what you would do with them exactly, even if they were together on TV. I think Nikki Cross is better off on her own, to be honest with you. Of all the options, I would put Dane and Alexander Wolf on NXT UK. And Eric Young can, leave or something, or become a coach of the PC or whatever. Keeping Sanity together at this point doesn't even really matter. They're never on TV. They were never really that great. They were a good group from NXT. Any momentum, any chance they had of becoming something, of note on SmackDown went down the fucking toilet when they debuted and lost in their first match in the main roster. So, again, at this point, doesn't even really matter. Splitting them up might be for the best, and Dane is a very talented performer. So bringing him up for, bringing him over to NXT UK where it could actually be something might not be a bad idea. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the Twitter/YouTube machines, his question was, could you see WWE having either Ronda Rousey or Charlotte Flair walk out as champion to close out WrestleMania 35? Would WWE be that stupid to have that happen? I do not put anything past this company, and I don't think anyone else should either. It's Becky, winning is what makes the most sense. Why would you do any other outcome? Well, it's because it's WWE. WWE likes to do things sometimes, not because the opposite outcome makes sense, but because they like to swerve people. There was no reason for all the faults that Roman Reigns has had with his push and whatnot, there was no reason for Roman Reigns to lose to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 35. They merely did that to swerve people. And it just delayed the inevitable, with Roman beating Brock for the belt anyway, just 4 or 5 months later. What the fuck was the point of that? They should not do that with Becky Lynch. They can have... I think Ronda's leaving after WrestleMania, not permanently, but taking a bit of a break. She's not advertised for anything as of right now, after the post-WrestleMania Raw. So I don't think she's winning. Charlotte winning would be just a massive mistake. And I do not want to see Charlotte and Becky continue coming out of WrestleMania. They got to go their separate ways, on separate brands, do their own thing. Becky winning is the only outcome that makes sense. Then you call up Shayna Baszler, and you can do Baszler and Becky coming out of WrestleMania. That, to me, would be a perfectly logical idea. Ronda winning, I think, would be better than Charlotte winning, unless Ronda was to lose the belt to Becky the next night on Raw, which, again, why do that when you could just do it at WrestleMania, when more people will see it, and it will make more of an impact, and it'll be a better WrestleMania moment. To delay the inevitable, just to do it on Raw the next night, seems stupid to me. So yeah, there is a chance that either Ronda or Charlotte could win on Sunday. But I think a lot like with Daniel Bryan back at WrestleMania 30, yeah, there was a chance Orton could retain, or that Batista could become the world champion. But they did what made sense. They gave the people what they wanted for once, and they made Bryan the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I think they'll do the same thing with Becky on Sunday, despite temptation to swerve people by having Ronda or Charlotte go over. His second question, what are you expecting from WrestleMania 35? A hot mess? One of the best Mania events ever? Or a mixture of both? I would say a mixture of both. And I don't want to be biased either because I'll be there. So I don't want to say it's going to be terrible. I'm going to enjoy it regardless. I would hope that people enjoy WrestleMania regardless. At WrestleMania, 32 for example, the show sucked. I did enjoy certain aspects of it, but overall, the show was not good. This WrestleMania, I'm sure will still be enjoyable. I doubt it's going to be one of the best Mania events ever. It could be. And the positive, the upside of having a bad build, is that it sets people's expectations real low. So when it exceeds those expectations, it makes the pay-per-view that much better. So that could be the case with WrestleMania 35. But if I had to guess, I would assume this is going to be more of a mixture of some really, really good matches and some matches I couldn't really care less about. WrestleMania 34, that's what that show was to me. There was some really good matches on that show. Charlotte and Asuka, the three-way Intercontinental title match, the Ronda Rousey mixed tag team match, even AJ Nakamura. There were some really very good to great matches on that show. But overall, the show's a mixed bag. WrestleMania 35 could be the same thing. I hope it's a bit better than WrestleMania 35, or 34 rather. And it has the potential to be great, but it's all about execution. It doesn't really matter how bad the build is. In the heat of the moment, it's all about the execution when it comes to WWE. If they can pull off a phenomenal show on Sunday, more power to them. I'm not expecting an amazing WrestleMania by any means, but then again, I don't think I expected WrestleMania 30 and 31 to be as great as they were. So we'll see. We'll see. It could be on the level of those two WrestleManias. It may not be, but we won't find out till Sunday. I'm excited to find out nonetheless. And his third question, should WWE unify the tag team titles since both divisions are booked so badly, outside of a few tag teams, of course? I don't want to say no to that. I like both brands having their separate tag team titles because there's a lot of tag teams. So I feel like when you have a unified tag team championship, it provides less opportunities for certain tag teams on certain shows. But like you said, the divisions on both brands are fucking dead. Completely dead. WWE could clearly not care less about the Raw and SmackDown tag team divisions, which is very obvious based off the fact that neither tag team title was booked for WrestleMania until Tuesday, until just yesterday, 5 days before the fucking pay-per-view. How sad is that? So it wouldn't be a bad idea, especially if they unify the women's titles as well. But if you're going to unify the women's titles, there's nothing stopping them from unifying the tag titles as well. This is the first brand split all over again. They unified the women's championship soon after unifying the tag team titles. But the issue is that unifying the tag team titles did not make tag team wrestling any more of a priority in WWE. It was still a mess. Like when the Hart Dynasty, I think they were holding the championships for a while in 2010. They were never on the show. People forgot there were tag team titles until the fall of that year. So having one set of tag team titles will not make tag team wrestling any better. Not to say that having two makes it any better either, but at least with separate shows, it just makes more sense. So I wouldn't unify them just yet. They do have a lot of tag teams, but I don't think unifying the tag team titles is the answer. They have to make the most of who and what they have, specifically on Raw right now. SmackDown has a handful of really good teams. Love the Hardys. The Usos are awesome. The Bar is really, really good. They have some pretty good tag teams. Raw, not so much. Black and Ricochet should not be long for the tag team division. I'll say that much. The Revival is great. They're booked like shit. Roode and Gable should probably have split up by now. Who else even is there? The B Team? Who gives a shit? The Ascension? Who gives a shit? Heavy Machinery? Already written off as a joke. So I would make the most and book these tag teams better as opposed to unifying the tag team titles just yet. I would try that first before going down that route, because you can't really undo that at that point. You can't really unify them and then like, I don't really want to unify them anymore. Let's go back to 2 sets of tag team titles. At that point, just eliminate the brand split altogether. But yeah, I would keep them separate and then try to make something of both tag team divisions before that last resort in unifying the 2 tag titles. But it's not a bad idea by any means, considering how dead both divisions are right now. Final few questions come from @Scarlet1, first one being, have you ever read the 2015 Sports Illustrated article where Xavier Woods says his goal is to help Kofi Kingston become heavyweight champion? I don't know if I ever read it, but I have heard of it. I have seen clips of it. I didn't get the chance. I know you tagged it in the tweet in which you sent in this question. I didn't have the time to read it, but I did see someone post it on Facebook on my Facebook page, or not the page, but like my personal profile. One of my friends is a wrestling fan, and he had posted this excerpt from the interview. I think it was either that or like an interview they did with Stone Cold Steve Austin a few years back, with Xavier saying that their goal is to make Kofi Kingston the WWE champion. And that could and very well should become a reality at Sunday's WrestleMania. But it's pretty amazing to see that even all these years later, years after the New Day first came together, that goal is still intact, and that goal could become like a thing on Sunday. That's pretty fucking cool. Their second question, which tournament was better, the 205 Live #1 Contenders Tournament or the 2019 Dusty Rhodes Classic? That's a good one. I would say the Rhodes Classic, the Dusty Classic, just because every match in that tournament was like amazing. That first round specifically was stellar. And the 205 Live tournament was good too, don't get me wrong. The finals were great with Alexander and Nice. There were some really good matches in that tournament as well. But like, some matches were like good. The Dusty Classic, every match was no joke great. Every match was great, including the finals. Anything even with the Forgotten Sons was great, which shocked the hell out of me. They had great, opponents to work with, mind you. But even that match was great. Even the finals with Black, Ricochet, and the Forgotten Sons was awesome. I really loved the Dusty Classic this year, and easily the best one they had ever done. But the 205 Live tournament was not bad either and produced a lot of good gems, including, as I said, Alexander and Nice. Gulak and Nice had a great match. Nice and Kalisto had a good match. What else was there? Alexander and Oni Lorcan was awesome too. But I think overall, the Dusty Classic barely edges it out. Their third question predicted best in, not best, but still solid, of NXT TakeOver New York. That is so fucking accurate. That's so accurate. Because, like, every time that you ask that question when it comes to, like, best and worst of, like, NXT, there's never any worst of NXT. Yeah, like, weakest maybe. But, like, there's never anything really bad about these NXT shows. Ever. Like, there's usually something that may be solid, but even that's a bit of a stretch. Usually everything is from good to great to, like, fucking awesome. And TakeOver New York, I'm predicting this right now, hot take, everything will be the best. Everything. All 5 matches on that card have the potential to be show stealers. The 4-way women's match might be the only match that could be like solid, but all 5 matches I think are going to be great. I really do. So that's my hot take for TakeOver. I am so excited for that show. Well more even than I am for WrestleMania or even, G1 Supercard. TakeOver for me is the most anticipated show of the weekend, and I'm so excited that it's the first one that I'm going to on Friday night. And the last question for the WrestleMania Go Home Show edition of #AskGSM, the predicted best and worst of WrestleMania 35. This one is a bit more, hit or miss with WrestleMania. Like, there's a lot of matches I think that could be really, really good, and other matches I think that could be not so good. The best, Miz and Shane. I do think Miz and Shane is going to be a really good match, especially considering the Falls Count Anywhere stipulation. I'm looking forward to that match. AJ Styles and Randy Orton, that should be a really good match. The build has been great. Despite the lackluster build, Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair, I do think will deliver in the main event slot. That'll be a really good match. And then Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston, and Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar. Again, the Bryan Kingston storyline has been amazing. I do think the match itself, for all the suspense regarding Kofi maybe becoming champion, will make that match awesome. And then Rollins and Lesnar, again, a weak build, but I think these guys, if given the opportunity to go out there and have a really, really good match, and not just Lesnar squashing Rollins for like 20 minutes, they could go out there and kill it. So I'm hoping that's going to be a great match too. The worst of WrestleMania, again, I want everything to deliver, but I'm expecting Angle and Corbin to be not so good. Bobby Lashley and Finn Balor. The Demon, okay, cool, but like in terms of a match, I don't expect it to be all that good. Samoa Joe and Rey Mysterio, I'm tempted to say that, not because the match is going to be bad, but I feel like it's going to be okay at best. They won't be given much time. Assuming Mysterio can still go, like I said earlier. I don't know if he will be, but regardless, even if someone replaces Mysterio, this match has gotten like zero hype. So I don't expect it to be all that great. I expect them to be cut for time, to be short on time, and for it to be just decent, if that. And then, of course, the Battle Royals. Like, regardless of who wins, the Battle Royals themselves are usually trash. They're usually not that good. So I expect those to be pretty bad as well. But that's going to do it, guys, for today's go-home edition of #AskGSM before WrestleMania 35 on Sunday. Thank you guys for sending in the questions to the show. If you want to send in a question to the show, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section of this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So speaking of next week, it's going to be a big episode. Discussing all the fallout from WrestleMania and whatnot. I don't know when I'll be able to get it up. I'm hoping Wednesday. So we're coming back Tuesday. But between all the shit I know I'm going to have to do, I don't know how quick I'll be able to get the episode up. So that being said, just bear with me. If you don't see me put up the tweets asking for questions, don't be alarmed. I'm still filming the show. I probably just forgot because there's going to be a lot on my mind between now and next Tuesday. And Tuesday is usually when I put up the question on Twitter and on Facebook asking for the question. So send them in anyway. Do it right after WrestleMania if you want, just to make sure you don't forget. It's going to be a very newsworthy week over the next 7 or 8 days, to say the least. So bear with me, guys. I'll be having all my coverage up of WrestleMania weekend on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. So follow me on all those platforms for my full WrestleMania coverage. Until next time, guys, have a great rest of your WrestleMania weekend. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road to WrestleMania.